As Jen mentioned, this is the first of 3 webinars on Excel on Sundays. And the reason for that is in our book, Great Catholic Parishes. If you don't have it, check it out. It's on Amazon. We identified 4 essential practices of parishes that thrive. And one of them is that they excel on Sundays. They recognize that 80% or more of the people who go to their parish, that is the only experience they have is the Sunday Mass. So it needs to be excellent in every way. And we broke down the Excel on Sundays piece into 3 key areas: hospitality, homilies, and hymns. This week, we're going to talk about hospitality. Next month, August 24th, we're going to talk about homilies and preaching. Great preaching can have a huge impact on people's experience at the Mass. And if you'd like to nominate a pastor who's a great preacher, please let us know. You'll get an email after this webinar, as Jen said, that'll have links to watch it later, but I'll also throw a link in there for you to nominate someone who is great, has great homilies that you'd like us to find out about. And then in September, we're going to do one on hymns. That is music and all things liturgy, and hope that you'll join us for that as well. Today's guests, later we're going to have a team from Church of the Holy Eucharist in Tabernacle, New Jersey. But I want to start off with a really interesting guy who was introduced to me by St. Monica's in Santa Monica. And this is Vince Bernakis. And Vince is the VP of Learning, Development, and Hospitality at Caruso. Now, Caruso is not a Catholic parish, although Rick Caruso is Catholic. Caruso is a company that develops, owns, and manages properties in Southern California, primarily shopping centers, retail properties, also residential properties. But you might wonder, well, what could we learn from them? Well, Caruso is a company that's really leaned into this idea of start with why. They don't just see themselves as a real estate developer or a mall manager. Here's their first operating principle: we create welcoming places that people love. As you'll hear from Vince, for them, it is way more than just trying to sell things to people or get people to come to their properties. They believe if they create a welcoming place that people love, all the other end results will come after that. And I think in some ways, as it's true for parish engagement and people feeling like their parish is a place of belonging, it starts with it feeling like a place where they're welcomed and loved. And we find that in hospitality. So let's do that now. We're going to go to my conversation with Vince. And I also want to preface this by saying today's going to run over. I had to cut like over 20 minutes of content out of these 2 conversations. We're probably going to run to like 15 minutes over. So just prepare for that ahead of time. And if you have to go, that's fine. You can watch it later. All right, let's go now to my conversation with Vince. Well, Vince, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm so excited about this conversation because it's one that is really important to me. And you're the pro, you're the expert. And I'm excited for all that you bring to this. I want to start just by asking you, I think most parishes are aware that they should have greeters, that people should be friendly and nice. But extraordinary hospitality goes so far beyond that. What does it mean when we talk about developing an organizational culture of hospitality?
Well, first, John, thank you so much for inviting me. I know there's a lot more to the noble work you do and all of the parishes, but I think we do share some similarities. We bring communities together, we provide a great experience, or at least seek to, and hopefully we enrich the lives of those around us. So yes, I agree. At minimum, parishes should have greeters there. And then when you talk about culture and the hospitality experience, it's critical to the hospitality experience, if not synonymous.
What are some ways at your organization that you nurture that culture, that you see, especially leadership, continually fostering that conversation of that create those expectations and that kind of how it feels?
Great service and great hospitality is more of a journey or a lifestyle and not a destination. So that said, it all starts from the top down. The top guy in the organization must believe in it. It can't be a thought of just a magic pill or a piece of technology or even a lecture or an interview. And then after that, I think you start by placing just a heavy focus on your teams, right? And what the staff experiences. The best marketing you could have is just a happy and engaged employee. You got to remember your customers, your guests, your parishioners will never be as happy as your happiest employee, right? So you got to keep your employees happy. You got to ask yourself, would you prefer to go to a church where the staff love their work and where the management, really focuses on creating that great guest experience? And when I talk about that guest experience, we really focus on three key pillars. It's the product, the service, and the atmosphere that you're setting.
Before we get into those three pillars, I want to go back to what you just said about what your employees or your even at a parish, your key volunteers, what they experience from the leadership models for them what they should do for others. So I just want to emphasize what you were saying there. If you're watching this, it starts from the top down. It starts with the leadership communicating it, but also displaying it, modeling it for your staff. When you have a staff meeting, a staff retreat, a volunteer training, those are all opportunities for you to display extraordinary hospitality for those that are serving in your parish. So you mentioned these three pillars of the hospitality experience. Tell us what those are.
Sure. The three pillars of providing a great experience are product, service, and atmosphere. And I'll break them down a little bit. So your product is anything tangible, anything concrete, right? So it's the content of your sermons and how they're delivered, right? It's the cleanliness of your facilities. It's the quality of the hymn books in your pews, right? I really feel details are sometimes just underappreciated. So at our company, we work really hard on getting those small details right, and we use that to our competitive advantage. We really sweat the small details. We have a specific way hand towels are rolled up in the bathroom. So, besides being a little OCD, how do we accomplish this? Really, we incorporate it to our daily process and routine. And I'm sure we have the same stuff that a lot of you have, daily property walks or a checklist or a work order system. But for a great product, I really think it comes down to something called lateral service. That's where everybody, regardless of position, does everything. You're the expert in your own job, in your own field, but you know a little bit about somebody else's job where you could lend a helping hand. So you're going to see all of our employees picking up trash on property, even our high-level executives, right? We're all brand ambassadors, and we all represent the company. So why wouldn't we do that and help out our colleagues? So that's the product, right? So let's say you have a perfectly clean, safe, welcoming property. The next part is what everybody thinks about with the guest experience is the service part. That's that human interaction. And quite honestly, this warrants a heavy focus and it'll take the most of your time. So our service model it starts at the foundation, right, of finding the right people. We go through countless interviews. It's kind of an exhaustive process, but it's well worth it. We only hire anywhere from 2 to 5% of the applications that come in. And if that person didn't smile during the interview, I don't care how good the resume is, they're out of here. Once we do hire them, we really make sure that they embrace the culture right from the start. We give them the tools they need to do the job. So it's constant training, not just on the job, but on something we call our standards of service. So our standards of service is, you may have like an operating manual on how to work a certain piece of equipment. It's like that, but for hospitality, right? It's like, what verbiage do you use when you speak to somebody? How do you answer the phone call? You know, how quickly do you greet somebody as they're walking up? So those are our standards of service. After that, when they're all schooled on that, the next part is fun. It's just keeping the staff happy, right? So we have parties and awards and all of that stuff, but I really feel it's in the daily hellos and the goodbyes with the team. We have a morning lineup where it's kind of like a cheerleader session right before our properties open. And, you know, on the way home, it's kind of high fives and fist bumps for a job well done. And the final piece of the service puzzle there is showing them how to kind of fine tune the service and engage with the guests, right? It's really looking for those clues that a guest is giving you and then acting on them. So there's a funny thing that we play a funny game when we do that. We just play charades. I'll act like a lost guest and see if my employees can guess what's going on in that situation. Or I'll act like I'm upset and I'm like maybe waiting for my car to be pulled around, and we'll see how the employees react. So if you do those two things, focus on the product and the service, you're already going to have a great experience. The next touch is providing that wow factor. We like to call it atmosphere. So these are the surprises and the delights that you add. Really, it's anything that engages the senses. So, you know, we have music throughout property. We pump a scent into the lobby. We have portable cell phone chargers where the guests can, you know, charge their phone as they walk around and shop. And we even make it snow here in Southern California in the wintertime on our property. So we have, you know, fake snow machines that pump snow out during the winter. We have little parks on properties where, you know, a guest could walk up and just pull out a free blanket and have a little picnic with their families. So it's a pretty cool experience.
I want to circle back to those in just a second, but I just want to revisit what you shared and kind of translate it for Parish World. You said product, service, and environment or atmosphere.
Correct.
And those are very applicable to us. You know, your product is your mass, it's your programs that people go to, it's sacramental prep. It's all the things that you as a parish team are creating and delivering to your parishioners. And so you want to ask yourselves, are they welcoming, but also are they great? Are they an excellent experience that it causes parishioners to think these people really thought ahead. They anticipated me being a part of this. They wanted me to have a great experience.
Right.
So it's important that plays a part in it. It's very important.
John, with that product, I'm sorry, if I could just jump in really quick. The tough part about the product part of it is, if you've been there for a long time, you tend to not notice those little defects and details, right? Or you might hear one of your colleagues say, oh, we've always done it like this. So when you hear phrases like that, you just got to challenge it, right? And any new staff or new employees, I think that is a gold mine of information. So when we hire new people, those are the ones we start taking on property walks and asking them, tell us what you think. And they're pointing out things that, you know, are glaring to them. And we're just bonking our heads going, oh my gosh, I can't believe we didn't notice this. So take advantage of those new employees that you bring on.
That is so true. I always encourage parishes, when you have new parishioners, new staff, or after parishioners have taken part in a program or a new member class or a sacramental prep class, survey them, ask them about their experience. How could we make this better for you? Surveys are a great way to gain insight like that. I want to go back on those three things again. Product, which is the things that you produce and create for parishioners. 2 is service, which is their experience with your staff, with your hospitality team. Those are more obvious. We'll talk about those more later. And then thirdly is environment or atmosphere. And as you mentioned, those moments of delight that exceed people's expectations. Maybe when you plan events, when you plan even for mass, or when you're planning for a training or a class, maybe put that on your checklist of preparation is what could we do that would be a moment of delight, of unexpected hospitality, and just brainstorm about it. And I think another resource for that, as you said earlier, is surveying or asking new employees, new parishioners, do they have any ideas? You might be surprised what they would come up with. And I want to circle back to one more thing we talked about on the service aspect, and that is if hospitality is a priority of your organization, it should be a part of every job description, every training, and every evaluation of every employee from the top down.
Right.
It should be understood when they come and interview, no matter where they fit into your parish, that giving people a great experience where they know they're welcomed and loved is a part of their job. They should be taught how to do it, taught language to speak to people. And then when you talked about that lateral service, I think that can't be over emphasized. And that comes back to every employee knowing that they're a part of the hospitality process. Now, in your work with Catholic parishes, you've created some of these wow experiences, these environmental atmosphere changes. Share some of those with us, if you would.
Yeah, sure. I was at USC, University of Southern California, and we were at the Catholic Center over there. I was working with Jamie Capetta, and like you, we secret shopped the church and everything like that. And then before Mass started, Jamie and I just sat on a bench, right next to the church on the sidewalk, and we just kind of watched what was going on. We were, I call it, looking for the clues that your guests are giving you. So we sat there and we watched people, as they came in and, having conversations. But one of the things that we noticed was, obviously it's a college campus and it's in California. So, gosh, there was a lot of people on skateboards, and we would see kids skateboard up to church, and they would pop their board up, grab it in their hand, and there was this kind of moment of hesitation before they walked into church, and you could kind of see what was going on in their heads. Like, is it okay with me to bring my skateboard in church? Do I leave it outside? It might get stolen out here. And I'm sure there was kids like passing by on a skateboard who were just like, I'm not dressed for it. I got my skateboard, and kind of kept going. So we decided to build the nation's first skateboard rack specifically for a Catholic church. So it's the Catholic Center skateboard rack. So when you go to church over at USC, you could skate up there. You pop your board up, you go into church, and there was a skateboard rack where you could just kind of chunk your board in. And Father Richard, will go and bless all the boards at the end of Mass, so nobody gets hurt or injured after they leave. So that was a really cool thing. And the other thing that we noticed there, everybody loved the music that was coming out of the church. Right, once the band started up, you watched people on campus just kind of turn around and kind of go, where is that music coming from? So instead of having the band start the music once Mass started, we kind of brought them outside about 10 or 15 minutes before Mass, and we had them play. And I swear it drew a bunch of people over to church who I don't think would have walked over there just for the music.
I think that's an awesome idea that's could even be used, as you said, like at your organizations, putting some speakers outside of the parish, outside of the church, where people, especially if you're in an urban environment, where people walking by can hear the music or even hear the Mass, right?
Hmm.
It's kind of the front porch, if you will, of the church, and it's a great place to connect with people. I've seen parishes through some surveying of young adults do the same thing with bike racks. They got an idea from a young millennial. Hey, I would love to ride my bike here, but I don't have anywhere to lock it up. So they added bike racks right out in front. And if you're a parish that is looking to attract young adults, young families, even kids, just know the way that you relate to them and treat them is also a hospitality moment. The way that you run the kids off of your property who are skateboarding on the property, uh, how you handle that can definitely affect how they perceive your parish. So keep
Right.
that in mind as well. Anything else I know you've worked also with St. Monica's. Any other ideas that you had there?
You know, now that you bring it, we haven't implemented this yet. I've done it at some other properties, but not specifically a church. But I think I'm going to shoot them an email right after this. We have this at our other properties, and it's something we call an "oh dear" box. Like, oh dear, I forgot something. And so I go to Home Depot. And if you've ever been in like a workshop or anything like that, at Home Depot, they have this kind of plastic box with like 100 little, clear shelves for nuts and bolts and screws and everything that you could buy for like 20 bucks. So we buy one of those for each one of our properties. Then we go to the local, CVS, and we go to that travel section, and we buy a couple of all of the little products from, bobby pins to contact solution to band-aids to pantyhose to anything that a guest would ever need, right? And then we take that box and we kind of hang it up in the back of the house. And we just let it sit there. And we probably use that box once a week. And it always knocks the guests dead. Like, they're just like, oh my gosh, how do you have a contact case and contact solution just readily available when I needed it? Or a lady who may have snagged her pantyhose, and they're just like, well, we have, black color and we have this color, and we just give it out for free. I mean, the whole investment probably costs 50 bucks, but the impact that it has on people is fantastic.
That's awesome. I love ideas like that. We've talked about what parishes should do in thinking about hospitality, but where is it that organizations often miss the mark? What are some things that they overlook in
Yeah.
creating this culture of hospitality?
I mentioned it earlier. A lot of people think that there is one magic pill or solution or answer, whether that be a piece of technology or having a hospitality mixer, just kind of one off, right? It's a journey. It's an everyday kind of grind, right? So I think, I see like the leaders and the managers, they want great service, but sometimes they don't walk the walk, or they don't want to put in the work, and it eventually just kind of loses steam. Um, so I think that's one of the major ones. I think the other part of it, we've spoke so much about really building up your staff and investing in your staff and making sure they're happy and all of that, which I think is 100% true, and you have to do that. But you also have to manage your staff, right? And you do have to treat it like a business, and sometimes you have to have those tough conversations and those feedback sessions with your team. A lot of the times I notice that you might have the wrong person in the wrong position, right? That they would maybe perform better somewhere else. The hotel that I was working with, we had this great guy, and he was working in the restaurant of the hotel, and he was just not happy there, right? And it came across as he was speaking to the guest. He was short, he was curt, just kind of enforcing all of these rules. No, you can't sit there. That's for this. And so after a couple of conversations with him, we realized that in school he really loved, his accounting classes. So we let him shadow the accounting department for a couple of weeks, and he absolutely loved it. And he just kind of blossomed down there, and he really shined. So I think sometimes you got to realize that you got to make some tough calls. If the people aren't, part of the culture and don't share that same vision and purpose, you got to let them know.
That is a word for somebody watching this, probably for a lot of people watching this. And I will say the person he might be talking about is your receptionist. I don't know why there's this phenomenon in Catholic churches and why it's allowed, but the receptionist is often the least hospitable person. Hey, and if you're watching this and you're a receptionist and you're a hospitable person, God bless you. But I travel to parishes all over the country, and I can't tell you how often. Sometimes I'll do a hospitality workshop, and the leadership will say, "Well, I'm so glad that so and so was there. She really needed this." And we didn't think she would even come because she hates going to things like this, and she's just not a very happy person. And I'll say, well, what's their job? And they'll say, oh, they're the receptionist. And I think, Vince, at any of your properties, would you allow a frontline worker who's known throughout the organization as being unfriendly to be in that kind of role?
Absolutely not. I understand what happens, of putting that person, you know what, let's get him over there, let's get her over there, but not realizing the impact that it's having on so many people who call in, right? Just because you're visually not seeing it, right? But it's such a critical role. So we have call center agents that answer calls for all of our properties, and they are amazing because it is such a tough job, right? Um, you have no idea what that person's going to ask. So you're entering all these calls totally blind, and it takes a really unique individual to be able to do that.
I think what you said there is so important is we have no idea the way that it impacts guests, parishioners, even just the culture of how it feels when you first walk in, whether that person has a positive or a negative personality or energy. I want to just close with this last question for you. You're in a for-profit business, and I think it would be easy for you to have a mindset of, hey, we're just doing these things so people buy more, stay longer, and become fans of our property. But you don't do that. You start with this mindset of how can we create an amazing experience, and those other things are the end results of that. Speak to that a little bit about how you think about that, talk about that, and then what are the end results of somebody having an extraordinary hospitality experience like this?
Sure. I'll just take the retail side of our business, for example. So our shopping centers. If you look at our competition, they think we're absolutely nuts, because we have these big fountains on property, and we have fresh flowers that are getting planted every week, and we have a trolley that drives through our property that is completely free for our guests. So we're spending millions of dollars on items that technically don't make any money, right? We're not charging guests for any of this stuff, to look at the flowers or to ride the trolley or anything like that. But it feels good, right? And it creates heart share with these people, and it creates heart share with the community. And that's just as important, if not more important, than creating market share for us. So as we started down this path, obviously, there wasn't a lot of money to be made because we were spending a lot of money. But what we noticed is families gathering and just kind of hanging out on property because it was so beautiful and it was comfortable. And they were riding the trolley and then they were calling their friends to meet them there. And then we started seeing some really cool things happen where boyfriends were proposing to their girlfriends on our property, right? And recording it. And then they would come back every year for, like, their anniversary dinners and stuff like that. So that was the point where we noticed this is something different here. And when we focused on that, we just blew past our competition financially, right? We weren't looking at, oh, how can we save on, paper towels in the restroom? We said, no, what can the best restroom look like? So you walk into our restrooms at the Grove, there is a restroom attendant who has a whole bunch of different colognes that you could spritz on for free. We have cloth hand-rolled towels that he'll hand you after, you wash your hands and stuff. And it just created so much heart share that the market share just came after that.
I love that term, heart share. As the parish, local parish, that's what we're about, is people's hearts. And I think we underestimate the importance of how people feel when they're on our property, when they experience a mass, or even like a baptismal class, or prep for marriage class. How do they feel? Scripture says our second greatest commandment is to love our neighbors. And do people feel loved? Do they feel thought about? Do they feel cared for when they're with us? For us as the church, that's incredibly important. And I love that you are tying it in to hospitality, even in a corporate level.
Sure.
And by doing that, your end goals, your end results are surpassed as you make people's hearts a priority. Vince, thank you so much for being with us today. I can't wait to get back out to LA and visit one of your properties now, and hopefully we'll connect there. But thanks again. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great stuff, isn't it, from Vince? And I was just taking some notes as I was listening through that again. And I love that phrase, heart share. What percentage or what space do we have in people's hearts when they think about our parish? I love this quote, the old Maya Angelou quote. People may not remember what you said, they may not remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And that's what hospitality is all about. That people actually feel and experience the love of Christ that we're preaching about and singing about, but they experience it in a first-person, face-to-face encounter. We also have other hospitality webinars that are available on our website. If you go there, look up webinars, you can register for our free library, and there's several other hospitality webinars that we've done. And before we get to our last panelist, I'll just remind you again of the things that we have to offer at Parish Catalyst. One that applies specifically to what we're talking about today is called the Weekend Experience Assessment. And this is where I come to your parish as a secret shopper, and I start with your website, your web presence, Google Maps, everything. I evaluate the entire experience as a visitor to your parish, from the parking lot to the pews. As I say, from the website to worship. What does it feel like? How easy is it to find where I need to be? What did I encounter with the people there? How was the music? How was the homily? And what was it like when I left? So usually we do that as part of an on-site workshop where I'll come in and do a workshop, either hospitality or volunteer growth or discipleship or small groups. I'll do a workshop with your parishioners on like a Saturday and utilize a lot of our Parish Catalyst innovation tools. And then on Sunday, I'll visit your parish and do a weekend experience assessment for you. And the other thing I want you to remember is our learning community coming up September 27th. If you are a parish leader and you think we need to innovate, we need to get unstuck, we need to find new ways to make disciples, to reach out to our community, to fulfill our mission, a learning community might be the perfect thing for you. You'll be with 5 or 6 other parish teams from around the country. We'll meet for a couple days each time to learn more about making disciples in creative ways and best practices for helping people grow in their faith. All the areas that you face as a parish, from volunteer engagement to the weekend experience to small groups, uh, staff culture, building a great volunteer and staff team. All of that is part of the learning community experience. So you can click the links right there in the chat window if you want to know more. I'd love to set up a call to talk to you about those things. Lastly, before we go into this conversation, I'll tell you about something we haven't promoted a whole lot. It's called Parish Catalyst Leadership Coaching. And that is where I do a one-on-one call with a parish leader, usually a pastor, but it could be a leader on staff. Once every 2 weeks, we do a 1-hour coaching call just to hear what are the challenges you're facing, think about what possibilities, opportunities there might be. And I help you as I've worked with parishes all around the country for years from that experience. And I may even connect you with other parish leaders around the country that might be able to help you. If you'd like a taste of that, we do a free half-hour coaching call. We're happy to talk about anything that you're facing right now. And you can sign up for that in the window there as well. All right, we're going to go now to Church of the Holy Eucharist in Tabernacle, New Jersey. What a perfect city for a Catholic parish, right? Tabernacle, New Jersey. And I had heard about them from some colleagues. And when I went to their website, I want you to remember that your website is your first place of hospitality. Most visitors will encounter your website before they encounter anything else. And what do they see? Is it just like overwhelmed with just tons of information? Or is it simple and welcoming and helps guide the visitor where they need to go? Because most people that go to your website are going to be visitors, believe it or not. So when I went to their website, there's a beautiful picture of their parish, and it says, "Therefore, welcome one another as Christ welcomed you for the glory of God." Their first message at their website is a scripture about welcoming. And I thought, I'm in the right place. So we're going to go to this conversation now. This is with Father Andrew Jameson, Donna Romali, who's Director of Faith Formation, and then Jessica Garrett, who's the Communications Director at Church of the Holy Eucharist in Tabernacle, New Jersey. Let's go there now. Well, Father Andrew and Jessica and Donna, thank you for joining me today. And I just want to start with you, Father Andrew, just talking about why is hospitality so important to you as a leader, creating a culture of hospitality, and what is your vision for that?
Well, our vision and mission of the parish is to follow Christ, love all, and grow disciples. And it comes from Jesus' command in Matthew's gospel to go and make disciples of all nations and baptize them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. And why it's key is because it has to be for us, I think, a very welcoming experience, for those who come to worship here at Holy Eucharist. We as a community want them to feel welcomed. We want them to feel that they are accepted. We want them to worship with us. We want them to have the experience that's going to be an encounter with God. And I think what hospitality does, it creates an atmosphere. It creates the atmosphere for that particular individual or any individual who comes to Holy Eucharist to have an encounter with God through our music, through our message series, and through our ministries, and through everything that we do. So everything that happens at Holy Eucharist, from the time that you enter the door to the time you take your seat in the worship space, is so key for us. It's so important because we want the people who come to pray and who are looking for God to have an experience that gives them that atmosphere, that setting, for us to have Jesus, have God touch their lives. And so that's why it's so key and important for us.
How do you continue to communicate that with your staff? Do you make that a priority that you're continually reminding them of the importance of creating this kind of welcome?
I think, yes, from the very beginning, when we started the whole process of looking at our parish and seeing what we can do to help us grow to a better understanding, not only of hospitality, but other areas of the church as well. It was through a constant dialogue with different ministries, different staff members about what I was thinking and where I was going with regarding to hospitality and to where the church, the vision and mission that I had for the church, where we were going and what we were going to do. And I felt that it was important that this should constantly be shared with the staff in an open dialogue, and continually reminding them of how important this particular area of hospitality is for our mission and vision of the parish. So yes, it was constantly sharing that with them.
Well, Jessica, you work in the communications area, and I think a lot of parishes don't think about the fact that communications is really their first encounter of hospitality with people. How do you do that intentionally in your communication, whether it be website, email, social media? How do you think about hospitality in a digital format?
It's a good question, and definitely one of the main focuses that we have to keep in the forefront of what we're doing when it comes to hospitality. One of the big things that we talk about is our website is oftentimes the first doors of our parish. People are coming in to check it out. We want it to be organized. We want it to be accessible, easily navigated. And another addition to that is adding on an online experience. Seeing what we do and how we do it is a lot of how the new generation are experiencing church now. They want to, it's hard walking through the doors, the physical doors of a church in general. They don't even get to experience our hospitality if we have it, if they aren't walking in the doors. So the online presence is definitely become an important step in how we become, give that first experience. There's all kinds of ways that we do that, even through the online mass, through our website, through our communication pieces, our newsletters, all that. But in addition to that, it's like branching off of Father and talking to the staff over and over again. We have to do it with our parishioners as well. We go off of this little saying that vision leaks. So like if there's a bucket and it has holes in it, and because that's just, we're imperfect, human beings. I know for so many times I need to be reminded over and over and over again while we're doing what we're doing. So as leaders, we need to keep dishing that into the bucket, because that vision, and it's like, oh yeah, we are about growing disciples. Oh yeah, it's not about me. Oh yeah, so it's something that we just have to repeat over and over again. So if we think that we're saying follow Christ, love all, grow disciples in our mission over and over and over again, we're tired of saying it. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We want to be tired of hearing the mission statement, because the next person near us that we think we're tired of hearing it are hearing it for the first time, or being reminded again of it again over and over again. So our communications online, through messages, through meetings, all of that is rejuvenating that over that bucket of that vision. So absolutely, online is a big, our communications online are huge when it comes to repeating ourselves with that.
You are speaking my language, and I'm going to repeat it, not because you didn't say it well, because I want to be sure everyone heard this. Communications are not just a tool you use to announce information about things that you are doing. It is an incredibly powerful tool that you have to shape the culture of your parish and to communicate to those outside of your parish who you are, what you're about, what your values are. So don't just utilize it to post information for ministries. That's really like second or third priority. First priority is shaping your culture, communicating your culture. And as Jessica said, if you're not tired of hearing it, you haven't said it enough. Make sure everyone knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is a place for welcome. that parishioners are a part of that welcome experience, that they are meant to be, everyone is a greeter, everyone is a welcomer. And then I want to go back to something else you said about making it easy for people to navigate. I think we've all been to websites that are confusing or difficult. And if we're there to buy a product, we'll often just quit and go somewhere else to try to find it. I often have ended up just going back to Amazon because I know it's easy, I know how to use it. So if your website is not simple and clearly understood and easy to navigate, same with any kind of forms that you have online, if it's a pain, if there's 25 questions, that is a hospitality experience. And make it as easy and simple and clear for people as possible. Donna, I see you nodding yes and amen as well. Tell me about your part in the parish's part in that hospitality experience. Once Jessica's done an amazing job and they just are attracted to your parish and they think maybe that might be a place I belong. What do you think of with hospitality when it comes really from the moment they turn into the parking lot until they get to the pew? How do you create that for them at your parish?
Okay, so just to preface this by saying that we're taking advantage of the pandemic and we're pivoting. So before the pandemic, we had started with greeters. Before the pandemic, we had a welcome center desk. Before the pandemic, we had ushers who were all, working to greet people, but they weren't all working together. So this summer over the, while the pandemic, as we're looking to roll out this fall, we're taking advantage of this time where we are rebuilding our ministries to refocus what that welcome looks like. So we've just met with our welcome ministry members, our leaders. And so what we're doing now, what we're rolling out to our leaders now to communicate to their ministers. So our greeters will be at the doors. They'll provide a first welcome. And then as they go into the worship space, they'll be greeted again by our host ministers, formerly the ushers. So we've rebranded what the ushers are doing. We're now calling them host ministers. So our goal is to have every person that walks into the church to be greeted twice. So we're working really hard this summer to recruit more greeters, to recruit more host ministers, to get our welcome desk, welcome center desk revitalized to make it an exciting place to stop by. So there's another possibility for a welcome walking by the welcome center desk ministers, but really trying to be, being aware of, so we don't use hymnals, we use worship aids. So we have paper worship aids for people to follow. So to make sure that people who are new have a worship aid, to make sure that we're not all clumped at the doors and talking to each other, that we're actually turning our focus out and being radically available for people that are walking through the doors. So it's a goal right now. So the head of our ushers stepped down. We have 2 new strong leaders who stepped up as leaders, but they need to understand the culture change that we're looking for, and that's a process. So we're doing some hand holding and really trying to help them understand the changes that Father Andrew is envisioning by having this radical welcome. Because the reality is we are seeing with the pandemic, people have a yearning for God, a yearning for something meaningful. And we're seeing new people come through our doors regularly. And if we're not on our A game, they're not coming back. They're not going to join other ministries. They're not going to get connected with the parish. If they come in and they're like, you know what, they're really not friendly, they're not going to come back. And friendliness is something that everybody can do. So we're really trying to be, put forth a concerted effort. We're putting all our eggs in that welcoming basket. I mean, and this is our plan to encourage people to come back into the building. Is this hospitality is where we're throwing all of our eggs. This is our new evangelization project. Is just being radically radically available, radically welcome. And like when I was, doing all the nodding when you were saying about this culture shift and educating people about the culture, and we've told people that this is what we're trying, our parishioners, this is what we're looking to do, and it's gone out in communications. But if you ask somebody in our parish right now, do you think that we're making making an effort to welcome everybody? I mean, they wouldn't see that necessarily. They wouldn't know that. They wouldn't be able to articulate that yet. So we're also about trying to really educate the people in our chairs what we're about, that we are pivoting and something new and awesome is happening here at Holy Eucharist.
Yeah, we've always been known for our welcoming experience. I moved here 5 years ago, and I can remember the first person that walked up to me on the day that we came and introduced himself, welcomed themselves. We walked away feeling like, wow, they noticed we were new, and how awesome that they treated us the way that they did. So we have been known for that. It's how do we take that up a notch? How do we make this a new progression? Take advantage of the pandemic, and be a little bit more transparent into what we desire to do as leaders of our parish. You said it earlier, and it's so neat because we've been talking about it for like the past 2 weeks now, about how, yes, we do have greeters, yes, we do have host ministers, but essentially everybody in the parish who are parishioners, who are part of this community, who know what we're about, are greeters themselves. Recognizing those people who are new, recognizing the people who are, let's just say, lost, hungry. When they're walking through the door, they're mostly thinking about, what can I get out of church? What is church going to give me, as they're walking in the door, because they aren't on the path of discipleship yet completely to understand that it's about stepping out beyond the church. They're in that first level, and the people who are committed, those parishioners, they stick out like a sore thumb in a good way for us to evangelize to them, when we start to notice them, and in turn we get something back on top of it. We grow as disciples when we start to recognize the people who are truly hungry, when they're walking in our doors. So I think this new level is pretty amazing, and the path and the swiftness and how we are moving is just so, it's so awesome.
It is
So
awesome.
you just see the Holy Spirit like dropping little pieces of the puzzle in. Just hearing you say that again, confirming that we are all greeters is just like, yeah, that's where we're going, and that's what we've been pushing for. And in some ways, we've pushed already in that direction, and we didn't even know it. And even more now, we're like, oh, now this is the way we got to go, So it's pretty phenomenal.
And I would say too that that like a great hire that we had here in the parish was our administrative assistant. So like, even, I know we're talking about the weekend experience, but actually if somebody calls our parish, Tina in our office is friendly, available, patient, kind, easy to talk to. I mean, that first, in the same way that the website is that first welcome, our phones and our desk during the week need to be manned the same way. And that we need to be radically, available and easy to talk to and friendly. And I mean, I hear from people like other people that come to our parish, and they're, you're so friendly. When I call the office, they're so friendly. Like, that is not a common experience in the Catholic Church, to call a Catholic church and have somebody friendly. So, I mean, that is something else that we need to keep in mind. Yeah.
And I think another blessing for us at Holy Eucharist, or, especially for me, is to have such a great staff that gets the vision and mission of what we're doing. Because at our staff meetings, we're all on the same page. And what we're constantly doing for each other and with each other is dripping, as Jessica said, the vision and mission of the parish. Constantly reminding each other what we're about, that we have to be on our A game, that we have to be hospitable and kind and patient and understanding for everyone, whether it comes through a phone, whether it comes through a door, whether it comes through a mass card, whatever it is, we have to be there for them.
So true, so true. And I love that you have a good to great mindset, that you recognize we were already naturally good at this. It was just a part of who we are, but we want to lean into that. So if you're watching this and you think, oh, we're pretty good at hospitality, don't use that as a reason to be apathetic about it. Use that as a reason to say, well, let's pour fuel on that fire. Let's be amazing. I love that you used this pandemic as an opportunity to reimagine things. So many people are saying, well, we just want to get back to how things were. And you're saying, no, we want things to be better than they ever were.
Amen.
And when you mentioned the ushers, rebranding those as a part of the hospitality ministry is so important. If you're watching this, listen, your ushers, whether they see themselves as hospitality ministers or not, parishioners do. And usually the experience, my apologies to any ushers watching this, is not one of hospitality. And I'll just tell you, as you rebrand them as hospitality ministers, and you remind them that and teach them that, if they are not willing to be a part of that experience, they just informed you that they're not a good person for that job.
Right.
And I don't care if they've been there 20 years, losing them may be a reality. But think of the people that you lose that are new, that you don't even know you lose because someone was rude to them or unkind or just didn't smile. So, Donna said they had a head usher step down as they shared this is the new vision for ushers, which is okay because somebody's going to step up that's going to knock it out of the park with a welcoming experience. I want to challenge you. You guys are already doing a goal of 2 greetings for people that visit your parish, and which is huge. I want to challenge you to 3. And here's the 3rd greeting. The 3rd greeting happens in the pews. Mm-hmm. And you can share this vision with your parishioners. Listen, we have greeters, we have ushers. You are the 3rd greeting. And when we have a time for greeting and welcome, I don't want you to just be looking for your friend to say hi to. I want you to be looking for someone that you don't recognize to extend a hand to. Yeah. Because I've seen people come back to parishes, not because of the music or the homilies, which we'll be talking about in the next few months, but because during the greeting, they made a connection with someone who followed up later and became their friend at the parish. Father Andrew, you spoke for a minute there about the Mass itself and the experience there. Once that starts, as a pastor, how do you create hospitality in the midst of the liturgy?
I think it's just making the community, myself, feel relaxed in how I celebrate. I think that's important and that's key. I think how I celebrate and people recognize how I celebrate is important. I think the key too is the message or the homily that is delivered, by me. That's key. Incorporating personal stories of myself into the homily so that people see who I am and that I'm a human being and that, I have weaknesses, I have areas that, they all share with and understand with. So I think I think the homily that I deliver makes that connection. But I think always, making them feel that they're accepted, that they're loved, that I'm there for them, and I think that is so key, for me as the presider of the Eucharist, and it's just how I celebrate, and that warmness that I bring, to the Eucharist, when I celebrate.
I mean, I think you really take your time.
Yeah.
And you're really reverent. And I think that helps bring people along. But I would also say too that in your message, you don't use like a couple weeks ago, you trotted out the proto-evangelium. Like it's insider language, but it's defined, right? So I think that there's a concerted effort in your message that you don't use like that
Sure.
anybody that's there wouldn't feel excluded by it.
Right.
You're not
You know,
grasping
that you
it.
use, that you make sure that, you know, everything is defined, that anybody walking in can easily enter in the
Understand.
message. So, and two, if you want to talk a little bit about the online hosts also. So like
Oh, yes.
online,
Mhm.
because you speak to that really nicely.
We online mass is difficult a subject in general, right? When you get into the non-denominational Protestant side of things, sometimes people will look at an online experience and an in-church experience as equal, in the sense that it's okay if somebody is introvert and wants to just stay at home and watch their service online, or they can come in and do that. As Catholics, our Eucharist is very necessary, and the physical community is so important in church. So an online mass can actually be controversial in some aspect. So we don't look at it as necessarily a 50-50 thing. We look at it as the first doors. Definitely opportunity for like homebound, which we have experience, ways of getting homebound the Eucharist to cover that. But the first doors and then getting them in is really what we want to go towards. We want the community to come together, be physical, centered around the Eucharist, and it's necessary, it's vital. So if you come and watch a mass online and you're on your own, it's not very community oriented. That's lacking. Online hosts are necessary. It allows somebody we have a chat experience. So the idea of chatting during mass is, at first was like, well, do we allow that? How does that go? But it's necessary, because when you're in a physical presence in the worship space together, a face nod, a smile, a laugh is communicating. It's communicating energy. The online hosts and the online chat experience allow that energy to allow people to see that hospitable experience, that first door experience, wrapped up in a nice online mass experience, in hopes of bringing people back in. And then, of course, there's backgrounds to that encourage them to get, events or experiences within that we hope people will walk in our doors. Donna said it earlier, getting people into the doors for the first time is a hard step, but an even harder step is getting people to come back a second time.
Amen.
And so that's a main focus that we have to keep our eyes on as well. So online hosts are a great opportunity to get them in that first door, but then how do you get them to the second part as well? It's all wrapped up into how we move along with our hospitality. And it's continuously growing.
I'll confess that I was one of those people that originally felt like people shouldn't be chatting during mass, right? They wouldn't be doing it in the church. But then as I saw like people greeting each other online, and I saw people sharing the sign of peace online, and I saw people sharing prayer intentions, and I really saw where this is the next step to creating a sense of community, where people do feel safe and feel like, and I have seen people hunger for more. They experience it there, they get a taste of it, and they think, well, it actually helps remove some of their inhibitions and their fears about coming into the church. And now they feel like this is a place that I could belong. And so they now go and take that next step. So we talk a lot about hospitality as people come into Mass and are welcomed at Mass. But I think an opportunity that a lot of parishes don't think about is hospitality as they leave Mass. I have several memories of being at restaurants or hotels, places that provide great hospitality. And as I left, I was made to feel special. Is that something that you've thought about and implemented some strategies on?
That's so neat that you say that. Again, these little things just drop into place on what we're covering, and making sure that things, especially as we build on, that's something that we really didn't always push for, before. And now this time it's neat, because we always talk more like as parishioners would wish people off, or that's the relationships that build off of that. But even with our step up this past with our training with our leaders, we had mentioned, oh yeah, and greeters are covering at the door at the end of mass as well. And they're like, oh, let me make sure I get them in there, like it's really important. That's an additional step that needs to be put into place, is that opening and saying goodbye, have a great week. It's really become noticeable in restaurants if they don't have it now, or an experience like that. It's so important just to, oh yeah, that's a huge part of what we're doing now.
I think it's important for me too, because that's part of what I do at every mass. So at the end, I'm standing in the back, and as the people are coming out, I'm saying, have a great week. Hello, how are you? How you doing? Welcome. If I see that you're new, I'll, welcome them. So I'm very, very present, and I know it's important because I tell the deacon that's on the mass with me, you've got to do the same thing. Pick another door, but be at the door and make sure that you greet the people as they're leaving. Have a great week. Good seeing you. See you next week, etc.
Yep.
So yeah, plus the greeters.
Yep.
So
Yep. Even with our faith formation program, so when families come into our hall, we do the same thing. Like I'm always at the door, welcome everybody as they come in, and then as people are leaving, have a great week. Yeah.
Well, not to add another responsibility on you, but maybe that's the fourth greeting, is as they leave. I was at a parish, and they were so strategic about this that they had greeters after Mass that waited around and looked for people who were lingering. And I was waiting in line to say hello to the pastor, and I had someone walk up to me and say, hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you here before. I'm Jim. I said, oh yeah, I'm John. He said, are you waiting to see the pastor? And I said, yes. And he said, well, is there anything I can help you with? And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm just waiting. He said, okay, well, I'm around. If you need help with anything else, please let me know. So later I spoke to someone that worked there about that, and they said, oh, that was intentional. He waits and looks for people because maybe there's even people that have a question for the pastor that someone else could answer and could kind of pull them out of that responsibility. So that's great. I'm glad that you're thinking about that. And I hope that other parishes will think about when people leave, they will remember how they felt. And if the last thing they experienced is someone greeting them or helping them, they will remember that more than many other things that happened during that Mass. Any other thoughts that you have in closing?
no, I really feel that, the staff and I and our team, we have a strategic planning team that meets every week. We are right on point, and I really feel that we're heading in the right direction. And I feel that because of the feedback that, we are getting from different areas of not only of the parish, but people and other pastors who have given us a feedback of what they see at Holy Eucharist. People from the diocese that see what Holy Eucharist is doing and continue to encourage us. So I believe that God is with us, and we're open to hearing what His Holy Spirit has to say in our lives, and especially for the direction of the parish. Because we've said over and over to the people and to the ministers here and the staff, it's not about you, it's about God.
That's a great thing, great reminder to end on. And I can't wait to visit you next time I'm in New Jersey. I will be certain to stop by. Thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate all that you shared with us.
Thank you.
John.
All right. As I said, we're a few minutes over. I did want to answer one question. If you have any more, go ahead and send them my way. About security, John asked about security and just pointed out that this is an important part of people feeling safe. And it's an important part of people feeling welcomed when they know they're safe. And I wholeheartedly agree. I would suggest, and a lot of it depends on the size of your parish, but there are people in your parish that are either current or former military or law enforcement or first responders who this would be a great way for them to serve and use their gifts, and they might love to help their parish in that way. In less urban environments, they can be very inconspicuous and just, you know, kind of there, but not fully present in your face. But they're at every mass with all the things that we've had, the tragedies we've had over the last few years. I think your hospitality workers need to be trained in some basic security, what to look for, what to do if anything happens, but then have someone who is a trained security person at every mass. And then if you're a more urban parish where you have people coming in right off the streets that often you have no knowledge of, I think it's great. I've seen parishes have a security guard, an off-duty officer that works outside, that just is there at all times, and everyone knows how to get in touch with them. One other question from Jill says, do you recommend staff be assigned to be mass greeters, or can this be a voluntary run ministry? I would recommend this being a volunteer run ministry. I do believe it's great for staff to be at mass to answer questions, not daily mass necessarily, but on the weekends, especially the information desk. But these can all be volunteers. They should be. You have plenty of people in your parish that are friendly people that would be great at welcoming others. And they just show up, 15 minutes before the mass, and they stay 15 minutes after. Some parishes ask people to serve a mass and attend a mass. I know that may sound like a lot, but when we create a culture of stewardship where people recognize that it's not the staff's job to run the whole parish, they never could do everything that needs to be done. As the parishioners, this is our parish, and we're all a part of this. We all contribute to this family. So you got to start with that foundation in order to get people to be eager and willing to serve in that way. Well, thanks for joining us today. Sorry we ran a little bit over, but you'll get information to any of your other questions in the email that comes out Thursday.